Hi, I'm Sunny from Sunnyside Soil, and today we're going to go over the most common worm bin problems and how to fix them. Starting with the most common question I get, what's that smell? A healthy, well-kept worm bin should smell like a forest floor, nice and earthy. So if it smells like rotting food, then dig around inside to see if there is, in fact, rotting food in there. If there is, you're feeding them too much because your worms should be eating it all before it gets to the stinky rotting food stage. If you find rotten food in there, take it out and slow down how much you're feeding. Other smells could include a vomit smell or a sewage smell. I know, gross. But these are signs that your bin has gone anaerobic, which means that there's a lack of oxygen in your bin. Probably because your bin is too wet. To get rid of the smell, if your bin is anaerobic, then just add some dry shredded cardboard. But you can't just dump it on top. You have to really fluff it in, and this is the gross part of worm farming, but it has to be done. Just put on some gloves and a shirt you don't love and really get in there. I like these gloves because they're good and thick. I'll link them below. But once you do this, the smell should go away in a couple of hours. Another problem you might have are worms crawling up the side of the bin, seemingly trying to escape. This can be normal. If you've just started your worm bin, the worms will be curious about their new home and go exploring. But if you've had your bin for about more than a week and your worms are still trying to get out, it's time to do some troubleshooting. First, do your worms have enough food? Hungry worms are going to go looking for a meal. If there is food in there, but it's potatoes or cabbage or something else that takes a while to break down, they might be looking for other food options. Second, is your bin too dry or too wet? Either one could send your worms in search of a new home. To assess, do the squeeze test. If you take a handful of your castings and squeeze, it should clump together. If it clumps together, then it's the perfect moisture level. If it breaks apart, kind of like mine did here. So this bin is a little dry, so I might have to add a little bit more water. You'll know that it's too wet if you squeeze it and water droplets start coming down your hand. Too wet? Add in more dry cardboard and fluff it in, and check back in about a day. Another issue you might have is bugs. Generally, a healthy bin isn't going to attract insects, but it can happen. The most common one is fruit flies. They are annoying, but they won't harm worms. They're only after the food in your bin. To combat fruit flies, you're going to add more cardboard on top to cover the food. Or you could be proactive and add mosquito netting over the bin when you first build it. This will make sure that the flies never get in. Another common problem is mites. Like fruit flies, mites aren't harmful to your worms. Mites are usually an indication that your bin is too wet. If you see mites in your bin, add more dry cardboard and fluff it in to dry out the excess moisture. Depending on where you live in the country, you might call this next pest a potato bug, a pill bug, a doodle bug, but here in Colorado, we call them roly-polies. Again, these aren't going to harm your worms. In fact, they kind of help break down the food material in the bin. So if you find a few in your bin, don't stress out. But if you do find an infestation in there, you need to clear them out. Unfortunately, the only way to get those guys out are to manually remove them. I know it sucks, but just bust out your gloves, put on some music or a podcast, and start picking them out one by one. If you don't, they will eventually take over your bin and eat all the food meant for your worms. Plus, your roommate or significant other might not appreciate the infestation. The one insect you do need to worry about are centipedes. They are worm predators. They will kill your worms. So if you find these jerks in your bin, you need to manually remove them immediately. But I can tell you from experience that they are fast. So you gotta be faster. Whew. I know that's a lot of information about what to do when things go wrong, but don't let it discourage you. Overall, worm farming is pretty easy as long as you're diligent. Next up, we'll be covering the ins and outs of harvesting your compost, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. And happy worming!